Startup Hub is a free educational project by TemplateMonster. We've started a series of free webinars for your business. Don't miss the opportunity to spend a mind-shifting hour with your favorite bloggers and ask them a question or two. Get all secrets of the influencers unlocked.
Hi, I'm Jeff Bell from Startup Hub, free educational project by TemplateMonster. Welcome to our free webinar. We're going to talk about how you can create a stunning website yourself, even if you know nothing about web design. We're going to make it as beginner-friendly as it gets. Our guest today is Marianne Manthey. She's a successful blogger, full-time, super busy web designer, and a mom. She helps creative solopreneurs create their own stunning websites. And it's her birthday today, so congrats, and thank you so much for being here today. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so let's get right to it. Let's start from the very beginning. What is the very first step one has to take in order to create a website? How do you approach it? What do you do prior to even buying a hosting plan or a domain name? What do you do the very first thing?
Well, the first thing I think is that you want to determine what platform you want to be on. So, you know, most people kind of either tend to, they have one platform in mind, maybe like say Blogger or WordPress, and they don't consider that there are other options that may be better for them. So I think that that's the first thing to do. You want to start with something low cost. You know, Blogger is great to start with. And it just kind of depends on your needs. If you just want to test it out, I highly recommend doing that. If you know that you want to start a business and you're ready to get going, maybe you've already done blogs before and it's time to ramp it up, then I think self-hosted WordPress is the way to go. So, you know, it has the most flexibility. Obviously, there's Squarespace too, which I think is a great platform as well. At the end of the day, I think it's going to cost you a little bit more money in terms of fees, monthly fees and all that. You know, I personally recommend WordPress, but again, it just kind of depends on your own needs.
Sure. How much, well, you mentioned money already. How much money does it take, say, for a hobby mom blogger to maintain and manage a website? What are the fees? What are the costs? What are the obvious and non-obvious expenses you're going to face as a first-time website owner?
Well, so if you're going to go with a self-hosted option, you know, you're definitely going to have some fees, but it's really not that expensive to start a blog, to be honest. I mean, you have, you can spend as little as $50 a year on hosting, you know, which breaks down to maybe like $3 a month. Then $10 a month for a domain. Some cost a little bit more, some are less. It just kind of depends on what you find and what you want to use. And you know, if you have multiple domains, obviously, but if you start out with one domain, you know, you can start for about $10, $15. Then you can always start with a free theme. But if you want to go, you know, use something that's a little bit more customizable or has more options that you're looking for, then you can spend anywhere between $20 and $100 on a theme. Some are a little bit more, but that's usually the average. So, I mean, you know, and starting an email list, you can do that as well, and that's for free. If you start it with something like MailChimp, you start out for free up to 2,000 subscribers, which took me quite a while to get up to there. So, you know, really, you can start for as little as like $60 to $100, $150, you know, off the bat. So I think it's pretty minimal.
Yeah. So how much time do you know it takes to create a website, to write enough content, to like the learning curve of installing and managing and maintaining a website, filling, like, you know, the sample data of the theme with your content? How much time does it take for a website to launch a website from the very beginning till it's live, if it's your first one?
Well, I think you're going to want to give yourself a little bit of time. You know, you could just get up and going within, you know, a day, really. You know, just get your hosting, install WordPress. There's just a few settings that you'll want to go through. And and you can, bam, you can just start writing right away. But honestly, I think if you give yourself a few days to just kind of get used to the platform, look up what are the best settings to have, the best plugins that you want to install to start with, and then learn the platform a little bit and write your first couple posts. I think give it a few days to a week would be great. Would be perfect to launch.
Yeah. So I think every first-time website owner thinks about it. Is it possible to launch a website, a blog, a fully functional one, an online store for free? Are there options to do it for free, and where are they, maybe?
Well, I'm not really an expert on stores. I don't have one right now.
Yeah.
I plan to have one in the future, but you can get started mostly for free. There's WooCommerce has a free plugin that you can basically install a store into any WordPress theme. Shopify also has a new plugin that they just put out literally like a month ago. So the plugin itself is free, but the service is $9 a month for Shopify. WooCommerce doesn't have any monthly fees as far as I know, but they do have, well, either one is probably going to have credit card fees or transaction fees, that kind of thing. So, yes, you can kind of do it for free, but you can't really sell anything without paying any sort of fees, right?
Yeah. And which brings me to the free themes you mentioned. How is it worth using a free theme, or should you cash out and buy a good one, a premium one? And how to create a beautiful website if you don't have the technical skills and can't hire a webmaster? Are themes a good option?
Well, there's a couple questions in that. So I think that if you are starting your first blog, right, and you've never blogged before, you don't even really know what you're doing, you're not even really sure what you're going to blog about, I would honestly say to either just get started with Blogger, just to get going, just to start writing and see what it's like. However, if you know that you want to start out with WordPress, then I think that you can get started with a free theme. Again, if you are not quite sure what type of features you want, again, just to get started writing. But there is something to be said for getting a premium theme, one that's well coded, well thought out, has some good functionality that's already built into it that you don't have to add in with extra plugins. So I think it's definitely a good idea to look into premium themes if you really do want to take your blog seriously and you want a really good design too.
Yeah, but all of the themes online look great. You look at the demos and they're like awesome. How do you choose the one that would work good in long-term perspective, would be compatible, with future WordPress updates? How do you pick one that has all the vital features and it corresponds the most recent web design trends? How do you choose the theme? What are the components you personally use?
So I basically, since I've been blogging for a while, when I did my redesign last year, I kind of had started to know about what kind of features I wanted. I knew that I wanted a homepage that was kind of customizable. There are drag and drop type of themes that you can have where you can drag and drop components. It's really hard to recommend themes because there are just thousands upon thousands, and I couldn't possibly know every single one, right? But I do have experience with Genesis. Genesis is a really well-coded theme. It has really great support. There's the thing with Genesis is you have to buy the framework, which is Genesis, and then you have to buy a child theme on top of that. So there's a little bit of additional cost. It's not much, but that's always a good one. TemplateMonster obviously has some great themes and hundreds and thousands of them, right? So, and that they have great support because they're a really big company that's been around for a long time. So I think that those are things that you want to look for. You want to go with a reputable theme developer that has really good support, and I think that's the most important thing, because you are going to have questions and you are going to need help. So
yeah,
That's my advice.
Yeah, thank you. I love it. But you know, WordPress isn't the only choice. There is Joomla, there is Drupal. What do you think? Which of them is best for which kind of business and for which kind of blog? And how would you recommend to choose between those big fishes in the?
Well, okay, so I have never used Joomla or Drupal. I have one maybe a few years ago when I was kind of starting to learn a little bit more about the CMSs that were out there, and before I really started getting into WordPress, I looked a little bit into it. I talked to some people that were using it at their jobs, and my understanding was that they were a little tougher to master. It took more time. Yeah. So for that reason is why I never got into it. And once I started to hear more and more about WordPress, and I mean, literally 30% of the websites on the web right now are powered by WordPress. That says a lot, right? Yes. So I think that's, you know, it's a pretty good platform. It's been tried and tested. It's constantly being worked on, constantly being updated. There's tons of people that are working on it. I personally think that it's really one of the best platforms out there, especially if you want the flexibility and the ability to add basically any functionality that you want.
I see. That's great advice. What would be your go-to tips to make you launched a website. How do you make it visible to the end user? How do you make it, like, you know, visible on the web? What are the go-to tips for the first-time website owners?
Well, so the first thing you want to do is you want to learn a little bit about SEO. I think that that anyone that wants a website that wants to be seen needs to know at least the basics of SEO. A really good place to start learning about that is, I don't know if you know about Moz.com, but they have, I mean, they're pretty much like the standard in SEO, and they have a beginner's guide to SEO. So if you went to Moz.com, you could find their beginner's guide there. And it's really kind of straightforward. It's easy. It has pictures, you know, so it's kind of fun to read. I would say definitely start with that because you want to know what kind of keywords you want to shoot for, and really start to incorporate them into your site. The other thing is social media. I mean, you just really, I would say that it's really, really difficult to get any sort of traffic to your blog without using social media. So one person argued with me once on that, and I was like, okay, you're the exception. I really don't know anyone that could really, you know, that could, I don't know, get the word out there without any kind of social media. I think for me, Pinterest is my biggest traffic generator by far. And for many people that I know, Pinterest is a huge one. So really getting to know that platform is really important, I believe. Facebook, I would almost just forget about it at this point. If you don't already have a page, I'm pretty much just letting mine fall to the wayside because it's starting to become useless. They just keep changing everything. And now I just read something the other day about some new thing that they're trying to do, branded content or something. Have you heard about that?
No, not really. But yeah, they do change algorithms very often.
All the time. And now it's like pulling teeth to try and get your stuff shown to anybody. So it's like, why bother? Yeah. Facebook groups is where it's at, not pages anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, do you think every business nowadays needs a website, or is being on social media enough for some?
I don't believe so. I think social media is good. You can maybe start. I actually started on social media before I even launched my blog, and I started getting a lot of followers that way. I think that it's definitely a platform you can do. I remember there was a discussion about this in one of the forums that I'm in. There was a girl, another blogger that I know. She is a photographer, and most of her stuff is on Instagram. And so she says that she's gotten a lot of feedback and interest in her Instagram feed, and she's kind of started to do mini posts with her Instagram posts, like, like mini blog posts within her Instagram posts, and that she's having a hard time converting them to her blog, and was considering dropping her blog. But the thing is that if you become dependent on a platform that's not your own, you have no control over that. You have no way of collecting email addresses. You have no way of controlling, like, what could happen. I mean, like, what they just changed the algorithm for Instagram, right? And so maybe your stuff will get shown, maybe it won't. I mean, it's just to have everything, all of your content on somebody else's platform, I think is really kind of dangerous.
Well, the same way with like a blogger, all of your content is on Google's servers, and it can be erased anytime if they think that your content isn't, I don't know, isn't good enough according to their policies. So yeah, it's all about the self-hosted websites.
I totally agree, and that's why I say if you just want to test out blogging and you just want to play around with it, and maybe you just want to blog for your family and friends, but don't really want to make a business, I think that Blogger is great for that. If you do want to create a business and you want to start generating traffic, to your URL, and you want to really start building something, yeah, I agree. Blogger is a bad choice only because people have gotten shut down and don't know why. Like, they weren't doing anything against the terms of use as far as they know, but they don't know. And it's impossible to get in touch with somebody at Google to just be like, hey, I really didn't mean to break any rules. Can you put my blog back up? It's like, no, all right.
Yeah.
So
would you say, yeah, please.
Well, no, I mean, that's just, like, to your point. I mean, I just think it's self-hosted, unfortunately, is really the way to go if you do want to take things very, seriously.
So most of the people start websites in order for them to get monetized at some point. Do you think WordPress is the only and the best choice to start a website that will bring you money in the future?
I don't think it's the only one. I know a lot of people that have successful businesses on Squarespace, and to be fair, on Blogger too. And if you are going to have an online shop where you're selling physical products, Shopify is a really good platform too. And as far as I know, you can have a blog on Shopify too. So, WordPress is not the only one, and sometimes it's easy to just go, rah, WordPress, it's the only way to go, but really, it's up to you to do the research and to figure out what's going to work best for you and your needs,
Yes. Do you recommend paid advertising for a first-time website owner? How did you use it, or to get the momentum going? How do you get it going? Yeah.
I did not do any advertising. Do you mean like Facebook ads or? Yeah,
like Twitter ads, Facebook ads, whatever. Yeah.
I have not. I actually still have not done any ads.
Good for you.
I probably will soon. It's just one of those things I just haven't even had the time to do. As you know, I have a full-time job already, so it's like trying to just keep my blog afloat is a hard enough endeavor as it is. So trying to get, but that said, I do really want to get some advertisement going. I have a course that's coming out here soon, and so I think I'm going to take out some Facebook ads on that, and maybe even some promoted pins on Pinterest, because I heard those work really well too.
Yeah. So what other, I don't know, marketing strategies do you use and do you recommend using, except for SEO, like guest posting, content marketing? I don't know. What do you recommend using for a first-time website owner?
Definitely guest posting is a great idea. And yeah, I mean, we already talked about social media. Guest posting is a great idea. That and doing like roundup type posts work really well too, where you might, kind of send out an email to a bunch of bloggers, like, bigger bloggers, maybe that have bigger audiences than you in your niche, and asking them to answer a question. Those seem to work really well. When I started Design Your Own Blog, I started a series of interviewing blog designers So like custom blog designers, and I kind of started to get on their radar that way, and then of course they shared my post with their audience. So and then that way I got to also highlight some of my favorite designers.
Yeah,
So.
I see. What would you say are the steps, or what is your advice to turn a hobby blog into a profitable business? How to make money out of a website, and how much time does it take to make money, to start making money of your website?
Oh man, I mean, it's hard to say how much time it would take.
Yeah.
You know, it just really, it depends. For me, I did not try to start making any money within the first year of my blog. My only goal was to build up my audience and to build up my email list. So that's all I did. And I thought that if I was trying to sell stuff too soon, I would dilute my brand, and I would come across differently, just because I didn't want to feel like I was just always trying to sell something. I wanted to feel like I was genuinely like sharing content that I believed in, and that I love to do, and just wanted to help people out. So that was my goal, was to just not even try to make money for the first year. Then once I had an audience, I kind of had a good feel for what they were looking for. That's when I started to look a little bit into some affiliate marketing. And so I signed up for a couple of programs and just started writing a few posts, just kind of, sharing some of those products and favorite things and roundups and all that kind of stuff. And they actually did really well. Who knew? So, it kind of keeps you going. But you have to be really careful with affiliate marketing, because you don't want to start getting too salesy. You don't want to make it seem like you're always trying to sell something. Just want to come across that it's something that helps like your mission, right, of what you're trying to help people with. I think it's got to support that mission.
Yeah, totally. So you mentioned affiliate marketing. What are
Sorry, I got off track there.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. It's in the question.
Yeah, so affiliate marketing is one. Oh gosh, so selling your own products. Obviously, I make part of my revenue off of my ebook. I only have one right now. I'm working on some more e-courses, obviously. Sponsored posts. If you can get sponsored through other brands. Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. There's tons of ways, and I can't think of.
Well, would you recommend putting ads banners on your website, or is it bad for your image? How do you think?
It depends. I've never put. No, that's not true. I did do ads once or twice, and they didn't really do anything for me. So after a couple months, I just pulled them down, because they were literally bringing me like $2 a month. I was like, okay, that's not worth the space on my sidebar. So if you go to my blog, it might look like I have ads in my sidebar, but they're actually graphics that link to an affiliate product. So they're actually affiliate links. I personally think that those work the best. Ads might work for you. It just kind of depends on what type of traffic you're getting.
Yeah. I know I used to work in tech support here in TemplateMonster, and I know a lot of people who start their first website, they struggle a lot because they have bought a bad hosting plan. The hosting doesn't have enough space, the hosting has some limits, and people they get angry. What is your advice to choose the right hosting plan that will work good? What are the criteria?
I think good support is the number one. Make sure that they're gonna. I think if they're gonna help you to get your blog set up, if you have any questions and they're willing to help you and in that way, then I think that they have pretty good support. Obviously, word of mouth too. You're gonna find out who has good support and who doesn't.
It's hard to find out for real, because if you Google which hosting provider has the best support, there will be like tons of ads, there will be tons of guest posting. How do you find them?
You kind of have to just ask around, if you, I know that people ask this question a lot in my Facebook group. So, and then you get answers all over the place. It's kind of funny because I recommend Bluehost a lot, and I've had good experience with them. I've never had a bad experience with their service, but then you get a lot of people that complain about their service. So it's really hard to say, so maybe some people are talking to the wrong people in support. So I don't know, maybe if you do have a host right now and you're maybe not happy with, you try to call in their service and you didn't get a good answer, maybe just try hanging up and calling back and getting somebody else.
Yeah.
I know that's terrible. That's not the right answer. It just popped in my mind, but
it really works, actually. I worked in tech support. It does work.
I'm sure. See, but I think the thing is that it's hard because when you're starting out and you don't have a budget and you're not making any money with your blog, you don't want to spend a lot of money on hosting. So you're going to go with a budget host, which is fine. I don't think there's any problem with that because at that point you're not getting a whole lot of traffic anyway. So you know what, if you're paying $3 to $8 a month, whatever it is, and your site goes down for an hour or something like that, it's probably not a huge deal because you're not getting that much traffic anyway. If it keeps happening over and over again though, and you really start to see that there's problems, then it's time to upgrade, But I think honestly, starting out with the below budget host is probably the way to go because for me, my philosophy is when you're starting out, keep costs as low as possible, as low as possible. I mean, there's so many things you could spend your money on in a business that you would go broke before you even made your first dollar. I mean, you would be so far in the negative before you made your first dollar in your business if you spent your money on everything that there was, right? So it's just get just what you need, and then just slowly upgrade from there as the need arises.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know a lot of people also ask me, and it happens a lot. People use this installation wizards on hostings, like for WordPress. People don't want to learn to install the engine manually, so they just go and use the installation wizard. What is your take on that? Should you just take your time and learn to install it yourself to make sure everything's fine, to make sure you know what's going on?
Right. I'll be honest, I've always used the wizard and I've never had a problem with it. So I think it's okay.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense to me. I haven't. I know just some theme providers have this thing with database prefixes, and you have to, if you install with the wizard, it automatically generates the database prefix and you have to change it afterwards. But yeah, I agree. I agree that it's a good way to go. But just,
yeah, I think so. Yeah. Otherwise, you're getting too complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any advice on finding a perfect domain name? And what tools did you use or do you recommend using? And what is the process of finding the perfect domain name that becomes a verb like to Skype or to Google?
So domain names are really tough because, so many good ones are already taken, right? It's really hard to find a good keyword domain name. When I found designyourownblog.com was available, I was like,
yeah.
Is there a catch? I mean, I really only bought it 3 or 4 years ago. I'm like, what's wrong with this picture, So I got lucky with that because it's actually, the first 2 years brought me a ton of organic traffic just based on the domain name alone. So I think it's a really good idea to try and get a domain name that is keyword friendly. However, if you're not exactly sure what your niche is going to be yet, then that's going to be really tough, right? Because, I mean, you might back yourself into a corner with that domain. But then again, I mean, it's not like people have never changed their domains before. So, I mean, there's that option too, or you can have multiple domain names all pointing to one website, right? Mm-hmm. So, but, a lot of people have domain names that are just kind of like cute, feel-good names that don't really mean anything, or maybe it means something to them personally. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as it's something that's memorable and easy to spell, easy to pronounce, and easy for people to type in and remember. You don't want anything that, if you use a number, right? I mean, and you say, oh, my blog is, or, my URL is, I don't know, blog to something, whatever, right? Is it blog the number 2 something.com, or is it blog TWO something.com? You know what I mean? So you don't want anything like that. I would stay away from hyphens, because again, like, that's really hard to say. Is it blog dash to dash something.com?
Yeah.
Like, it's just hard to say. You just want something that kind of rolls off the tongue, easy to spell. Oh, and one other thing too, you want to look at it. If you're using several words in your domain, you want to look at it all in lowercase with no spaces and see if it spells any weird words.
Yeah. That
Like,
happens a lot.
there's like one joke out there, like what is it? Expertsexchange.com. And what does that spell? Expertsexchange.com. So you want to be careful.
Yeah, those experts don't want to change their sex yet. Yeah. Well,
just something to look out for. Yeah, I would spend a good amount of time on that. I wouldn't just, pick one and run with it. I would do some thinking about it for sure. Do some brainstorming. Write as many down as you possibly can, and then try to narrow down your list. And then from there, then you got to type them in and see if they're available.
Makes perfect sense to me. Yeah.
That was a long-winded answer.
Well, it's great. That's what we're here for, right?
Right.
So, you mentioned that people often start their website before they even know their niche. What is your advice on how to find your perfect niche, and how to find your voice in writing? How to imagine that, that buyer persona or that persona you're writing for? What is your advice on finding your voice?
So, I don't know if I'm a good person to talk about voice, only because I don't even know if my voice on my website is any good.
Well, there is an easy way to tell. Your audience is very engaged. Your audience shares your posts. You get traffic through the social media. That means you have perfect voice for your audience.
That's true. That's true. So, okay. Well, so that said, I don't have any formal training in writing, other than what I learned in school for basic papers, which I hated to do. So writing was not my forte. But I just kind of write how I would talk, and then I that's how I start all my posts. I just kind of write it all out as if I was talking, and I tend to ramble a lot, as you can tell. So I had to go back and edit it quite a bit, and it's probably still rambling, but. I think that's really the way to do it, is to just talk naturally. You don't want to talk in this business speak, because nobody wants to read boring business speak. They want to hear you speak at them as if, you're a friend. So just be really natural. And, if you speak like kind of brashly and you use swear words and stuff like that, that might work for you. I know several bloggers that has worked for them really well. And
yeah, like
it might turn some people off, but you can't please everybody, right? So, but going back to what was your other question?
Finding your niche, imagining, yeah.
I knew there was another one there. So I think the best way to do that, basically, you want to kind of maybe do an assessment. If you're really not sure what you want to write about, but you know that you want to do a blog, right, and you want to maybe teach people something, I think the best thing to do is to kind of do an assessment. Maybe write this down, like everything that you feel that you are good at. You don't have to be an expert at it, but just some, things that you have experience with, things that you like to talk about with people. Things that like really fire you up, it could be politics, it could be whatever it is that you talk about with people, relationships, whatever. Just kind of make a list and just sort of kind of, see if you feel that that's something that you know enough about or can learn enough about to share with other people. And then you want to compare that list with needs that people have. So you have to do some research as well into what are people's pain points? What do they need? What are they hurting? What's hurting them? What problems do they have? And so how can you identify those problems, and how can you help them to solve them, really? So I think there has to be that kind of cross. Another thing too, though, that's really important, because yes, people have problems. That doesn't necessarily mean that they want to pay for the solution. So, I mean, think about the types of problems that you have in your own life. There are some things that you are not willing to pay for. You'll just go and research it online, and that's good enough. But then there's other things that you are more than happy to pay people for. Like, I could learn how to change the oil in my car. My dad taught me when I was like a teenager. Do I want to do it myself? No, I would much rather pay someone to do it for me, right? Like, like baking a wedding cake, like if I was, I'm already married, but like, I could learn how to bake my own wedding cake, but do I want to? No, I want to pay somebody to do that, right? So it's the same thing with things online, with information. There's there's things that people will pay for, and there's things that people won't, and it's up to you to do the research and find that out. And to go along with that, just because you don't have to have a completely original idea, just because there's other people serving that same market or same problem out there, if they're doing well, that means that there's a need for it, right? And that doesn't mean that you can't also come in and serve that market in a different way, in your own way.
Yeah. So you said that you're full-time, and you're a full-time web designer. I was going to ask, you have a huge guides base. You have a lot of content on your website, and it's all well written, well thought through. How long did it take you to create it? How long did it take you to create designyourownblog.com? And yeah, can you share your way to the website? Well,
sure. I think my first iteration, before I launched it, it took me a couple of months because I'm a web designer and I'm a perfectionist, and I just was never quite ready to have it. So it took me quite a while to design it, and then code it, build it and all that. Because I did my first theme was completely custom. As far as the content, that probably took me like a month. I really wanted to launch with some pillar content, stuff that was evergreen, stuff that I knew would last a long time, that would still be relevant, a year or two down the line, or maybe more. So I think I did 3 big kind of series. One was on color, one was on fonts. What was the other one? I don't remember. I'll have to go back in my archives and look. But so, and I did like 3 posts each or something like that, 2 or 3 posts each. And so I think I launched with maybe 8 or 9 blog posts. And that's all you really need, because you have to remember, hardly anybody's going to read them in the beginning, which is fine. But that doesn't mean that you can't share them later as your audience builds, right? So,
yeah.
and that original content is still stuff that I reference to all the time, even today. So,
yeah, you write a lot about like CSS, HTML for beginners. What was the most challenging thing for you to master in web design? Can you share?
I think the toughest thing was, the toughest thing has always been cross-browser compatibility, and that is something that every web designer has always struggled with since day one. Fortunately, that's gotten a lot better. The browsers are kind of seems like they're starting to work together a little bit more. I have a Mac now, so I don't use Internet Explorer anymore, but man, that was the bane of my existence,
Yeah.
web designer's existence for so long.
Yeah. There was a huge party in TemplateMonster's support when Internet Explorer got canceled, when they stopped developing Internet Explorer, and yeah, so
for IE6, right?
Yeah.
That was the worst one. Oh man, yeah, I remember there was a big party for that. I think globally. But, I mean, I think Internet Explorer has gotten a lot better, like its latest. I don't know what version it's on now, but I think it's gotten a lot better. But anyway, that's one of the biggest problems. The other challenge that I had was a few years ago when responsive design came out. It was kind of tough to wrap my head around that, but now that I do it all the time, like, oh, I totally get it now. Like, what was the problem,
Yeah. What tools do you use most often in your website maintenance and management? Both marketing tools and technical tools. What is in your kit?
Let's see. So I use Evernote every day. It's pretty much what I keep all my notes and ideas and blog post drafts in. I use oh man, what else do I use? Photoshop every day, duh. Sorry, drawing a blank there. Photoshop, I use Photoshop like every day in my job, for my blog, for everything. I use WordPress, obviously. I use Buffer and Tailwind for social media automation. I've been really trying to figure out how I can automate my social media a lot more. So those have become really handy. And I was using the free version of Buffer with Hootsuite for the longest time, and I finally just decided to pay for Buffer because it was worth it.
Yeah.
I use a lot of like stock graphics, really come in handy. So, and like stock photos. So I really love Creative Market is awesome. I'm on there like several times a week. I use well, for work, we use iStock Photo for stock photography. For my blog, I'll purchase photos sometimes. It just depends on what I'm looking for. But a lot of times there's so many free sites out there that have some really good photos. So it's hard sometimes to pay for it.
If you work in this web design niche like for a year, you start seeing those stock photos, the free ones everywhere.
So
I know you got it from this website. Yeah.
I know. You're like, oh, that's an Unsplash photo, but they have some really good photos.
Yeah, there's nothing bad in it. I agree. So yeah, I wanted to ask, so how long ahead do you plan do you have a content plan? And also for the topics you choose, are keywords, for example, the decisive factor, or just what you think will be helpful for your audience?
Oh, I'm afraid to answer that one. I kind of have a plan, but it's very loose. I really wish I had a better grasp on my content plan, but right now I just don't. It's a little bit all over the place. I started last year. I had some really good success with having a monthly theme. So every month, like 1 month, we talked about blog sidebars. So it's all about sidebars. And then another month we talked about blog headers. Then we talked about blog graphics. And gosh, I mean, I could write about blog graphics all day long. There's like so many posts on that. So I think I even extended that to 2 months, and that worked out really well. And I hate to say that I kind of fell off of that monthly theme, and I'm trying to get back on it. It's just that like I keep getting these ideas to do this and that, and then I kind of throw them in there and I throw myself off.
That seems to work fine for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I have an audience that likes what I put out there right now. But it is a good idea when you're starting out, for sure, to have a plan, right? I mean, it kind of keeps your content focused. There are some really popular blogs out there with huge audiences that cover like so many different topics, like especially in the lifestyle space. Honestly, I think that's really tough to break into anymore, So I think it's a really good idea to just kind of really try to keep a focus on one thing, maybe two.
Yeah. So what, in your experience, what did you see people need to check most definitely prior to launching their website? What are the mistakes they make, they miss, and they press publish, and what should they take care about before publishing? Yeah.
Before publishing a blog post,
Well,
you mean?
no, I mean going live with their website.
One of the biggest mistakes, I think, is well, I think one of the biggest mistakes would probably be images. Maybe like using too many, not too many images, but images that are too large for your needs. I think that because there's some, blog posts that have so many images and they're huge and they're way too big and they just really slow down your site. So that is a big mistake. A big one is, keeping on the topic of images, is using images that you are not allowed to use. So so many beginner bloggers do that, and they'll just go on Google and find an image and put it on there and think it's okay, and it's totally not okay. Before you use any image, any graphic, anything on your website, please, please, please double check that you are allowed to use it, first of all. And if you do, if you are allowed to use it, do you have to give attribution and a link back? You might have to do that in order to use it. So
can you explain how to check that, because not everyone knows?
Well, don't use Google to search for images. Okay, I mean that's just so. There's a just recently in the last couple months, there was a blogger that put out a blog post that went out that went pretty viral, and she talked about her experience about how she had written some recipe post or something like that about peppers, something like that, and she went out on Google, searched for an image of a pepper, downloaded it, put it on her blog, and then a couple months later she got a cease and desist notice, and she thought, okay, I'm so sorry, I'll take it down. Nope, that wasn't the end of it. Then she got contacted by this photographer's lawyer. Well, it was actually a scam. So this photographer had actually put this photo on Google, like had keyworded it and everything so it would be found. And I'm sure it wasn't just this one image. He probably has a lot of images out there. And basically then he just goes searching around to see if anybody's used it, and then he just sticks his lawyer on them. She paid thousands of dollars to this guy in retribution. Wow. All for one image. Wow. So it happens. Yeah. And people are trying to bait you to use their images so that they can turn around and just make money off of you. So I can't say it enough. Just do not use Google to search for your images. So many people have have blog posts now, including me. I have 2 of them on my website where that have lists of free image resources, and they are free to use. You either want a photo that's in public domain, and if it is, it will tell you somewhere that it's public domain, or you want Creative Commons, and then you also have to, if it's Creative Commons, this is a licensing, right, that the owner or the photographer has put on this photo. If it's public domain, you're free to use it however you want. If it's Creative Commons, there's several different licenses, and you have to check to see which one you're allowed to use. Some of them you're allowed to use, but you have to attribute them. Some of them you're allowed to use however you want. It's just do your research before you put an image on your blog. It's basically what it comes down to.
Do you think a great blog can function without a great design, solely on the content? Like, the Tess Godding blog, it hasn't been updated. The design hasn't been updated since, or Reddit, for example, it hasn't been for ages, and it's still hugely popular. Can a blog function? Yeah. So what's your take on this?
You don't. It just depends on what your niche is, really. You can definitely have a blog that doesn't have that great of a design, as long as you have really good content and really know what you're talking about. But I think those blogs, those websites that you're talking about, the ones that are ugly but that are so popular, the reason why they work is because they've been around since before websites were good looking, when they were all ugly, you know what I mean? And so that's why they still work. I mean, maybe there's a few that kind of, that still come up. Obviously, there's exceptions to every rule. Personally, I think to just have a nice looking blog is important because it's a first impression, Everybody knows that you have to make a good first impression or people are just going to be like, what is this, If somebody comes to your blog for the first time and they're like just kind of checking it out, maybe they just happen to fall upon it and they're just like, ugh. That's painful to look at. You know what I mean? They're just gonna, they're quick to cast judgment, and that's just the truth of the matter, right?
So the last one I have before we get to the questions from the audience, I ask this everyone: what makes a good website?
Oh, what makes a good website? Well, okay.
It's a big one. But just the key features, in your opinion.
I think that a good website is to the point, meaning like it's easy to tell what it's about, right? So like if somebody comes onto your website, whether it's by the homepage, by a blog page, by any page on your website, I mean, not everybody enters your website through your homepage, right? So you have to be aware of that. So if there's something on every page that basically tells people flat out, what is this blog about, then that's key. So, a good way to do that is to have a really good descriptive name and or tagline in your header. If you're using a sidebar, to have a photo of yourself, I think is really important. So many people leave that out, and I think it's really important just because people want to know who's the person behind the blog. And a little bio that explains, what this blog is about and what it can do for you, instead of, oh, I'm so-and-so and I like this and I like that and please read my blog. Awesome. Why should I care? You know what I mean? Like, don't mean to be harsh, but you want to give people a reason why they should read your blog, right? You also want it to be easy to navigate. Having too many options in your menu is not always a good idea, especially like in your top level menu. Like, seen those menus that like wrap into 2 lines, and you're like, oh my god, too many categories. Like, if you have too many categories, you're too scattered and you don't have any focus, right? So what else? Mobile, make sure it looks good on mobile. I think using a responsive theme or template is better than something that's like a mobile version of your website that basically strips away the design but makes it readable on mobile. It works, but people are on mobile so much these days that you kind of want your blog to stand out and not look like the regular blue and gray mobile site that every other blog has, like. So I think that's
a great answer, actually.
Yeah. It's pretty important.
So the questions from the audience. Let's start with June. Are affiliate links such as the one through Amazon a good idea to start with?
Well, we talked about affiliate links earlier. Obviously, I use them. They do really well for me. I think it's a really great idea. But just to reiterate, I think you want to make sure that the products that you are promoting are relevant to your audience and are relevant to your niche, and kind of make sense, and that there are also products that you believe in, that you're not just signing up for every affiliate program out there and just throwing it all to the wall and seeing what sticks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to stand behind those products. So I think that's really important. As far as Amazon, I think people do really well with Amazon. I think it's great, especially if you're recommending physical products. I think it's awesome. I think some people make really good money. I would use it if I could, but I live in a state where Amazon doesn't allow me to sign up for their affiliate program, so I can't. So I don't have any direct experience with Amazon other than I buy from them.
I see. So Carrie and Erica both ask about themes. So basically how to edit themes and how to manipulate templates to get them to work like the live demos.
So yeah, that's, well.
Yeah, it comes in the documentation of each theme, actually, how to, yeah, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I mean, how to edit a theme. I mean, I wish I could just answer that, like, you know, and like,
I know.
quick answer on this interview, but unfortunately it's a little bit more involved than that. You know, I customize all of my themes in some way, shape, or form. And the way that there are a lot of templates out there that have customization built into them, especially nowadays. So that's always a good option. You know, where you can just use within the theme dashboard, you know, you can change the colors, or you can move things around, show things, hide things, whatever. But I do, oh, I'm sorry, this keeps falling out.
Well.
I do most of my customization through, with just HTML and CSS. So I think that it's really important to know at least some basics about HTML and CSS if you want to really do some customization.
Yeah. Julie asks, what are the best WordPress themes to use? Well, I asked about her background to see what would be the best for her. She wants a nice business site where people can go to, see her books and ask questions. Yeah, so.
Well, again, I guess that kind of goes back to, you know, what we talked about earlier. It's really, I can't really say just, you know, yeah. I can't really tell you what themes you should use, you know, for your niche, just because, you know, well, I don't know. I mean, I would have to know a little bit more about, you know, you and you know, do that whole client, you know, interview and everything like that to really recommend, oh, here's what you should use. However, that said, like we talked about earlier, you know, there are some good, really good themes out there, and some really good theme shops out there, like TemplateMonster, of course, and you know, and I mentioned Genesis, and I think that if you just you got to just look for what are the type of features that you want, you know, like, do you want a slider? Do you want, what do you want your blog page to look like? You know, do you want a sidebar or not? I mean, it's really a hard question to answer, unfortunately.
Well, Julie can find you at designyourownblog.com. And
Yes, come to designyourownblog.com, sign up for my list, and join my Blog Beautiful Facebook group, and we'll help you out.
Yeah. One more very specific question about from Era: how to set navigation on a website. I think it's hard to answer in form of a webinar, but still, do you have any advice where to go to read tutorials? So, yeah.
To set navigation, so like as in WordPress?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's in the dashboard. You know, I like to personally have two separate navigations, one above my header and one below. I don't know if this is answering the question or not, but but you know, I just have like the main basic pages in the very top, you know, my about page and you know, contact page and all that. And then my second navigation is just my like my categories, that kind of stuff, like stuff that's relevant to my content, actually. So I think that, you know, you want to think your navigation through for sure to make it easy for people to understand what they're looking at, what they're looking for. Don't be cutesy with your navigation names, you know, use something that people understand right away. They don't have to try and think about what does this mean. But yeah, I mean, if you're using WordPress, then in the dashboard, it's under appearance menus, so you can you know, add your menu items there. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, yeah. So also it's in Customizer if you're using Gmail, but yeah. Also, the Prerna asks a huge question: what to know from start to end about making and maintaining a website? It's kind of a topic for a series of webinars, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say. Well, it's because of questions like that, because they're not the first person to ask me that, that I am working on a course that, fingers crossed, will be done by the end of the year. Basically holding your hand and walking step by step from starting a blog from start to finish, from figuring out your branding, your colors and fonts and all that, and to designing your homepage, and then actually implementing it into the actual blog. So, so if you want to sign up for my list, I'll let you know when it launches.
Yeah. There'll be a link to Marianne's website in our follow-up letter. So yeah. Also, there is Helena. She thanks you. She thanks you for so much for your efforts to support us. I guess us are the website owners. Yeah. So, and do we have more questions? I think we're all set. So.
Great.
Yeah, can you wish something to our viewers as a farewell?
Oh, well, I just, I love, this sounds so cliche, but I really love designing websites. I really love anything that's related to design and online. So, if I'd love to help you if you have any questions. I don't currently do any type of consulting work, just because I have a full-time job. But I'm always willing to answer questions, and that's why I have my Facebook group too. So I would love for you to join that. It's a really, really great community, and there's always people on there that are answering questions. There's always people on there that are asking questions, looking for feedback. Just, hey, will you take a look at my blog and tell me what you think? Like, it's a perfect place for that. So I really encourage you to come and join us in there, and I would love to help you make your blog more beautiful.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us today, for sharing so much information. Yeah, and
Thanks for having
me. My pleasure. And happy birthday. It was
Thank you.
It was Jeff Bell from Startup Hub, free educational project by TemplateMonster, and Marianne Manthey from designyourownblog.com. Thank you for being with us today, and good luck with your website. Look forward to seeing you in our future events. See ya.
Bye.